Hey, welcome to Between Classes Sports. This is Yusuf the Guru Khan, and I got a special guest host today,
Tim Hawthorne.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and start previewing the Miami-Florida game. So it's a big one coming up, August 24th, Orlando, Camping World Stadium. Get your popcorn ready, right?
Coming soon. Can't wait.
Yeah, so Tim, if you can see the tie, is a big Gators fan, and you know what? I got to represent too, so let me just make this jacket a little looser. And bam, turnover chain, baby.
Uh-oh.
So let's go ahead and get into the game. So, right now Florida's about a touchdown favorite, and I'd say that's fair. They came off a better season. They were 10-3. Miami came off a disappointing season, 7-6. We have a new coach. We have a new QB that we'll get into, and you guys, second year of Dan Mullen, and you also have a returning starting QB, Felipe Franks. But why don't you go ahead and give us a deep down of the Gators and what to expect, what you're thinking about with their matchup with Miami.
So to be honest with you, I think 7 points was kind of a little bit small compared to what it's going to be.
Oh.
The turnout, sorry, but okay, we have a couple of huge things here. Okay, so Florida, yes, we have Felipe Franks back. He looked great last year. But the big thing, towards the end of the year when Dan Mullen had him under his wing for about a year, he started turning his game around. He wasn't forcing throws. He has a ton of amazing receivers out on the edge. But the biggest thing that I like to point out is their running game. If you look at their running game, they have three very good starters. You have LaMarcus Pirine, you have Damian Pierce, and you have Malik Davis. All three of those are excellent, could be starting running backs all throughout the most college teams. I like to say though, with that being said, as long as their offensive line can keep Miami's defensive line off the quarterback and give him time and allow them to run the ball and throw the ball, they have a really good chance of making Miami get tired, especially in the second half, because Miami's offense do not have that many playmakers from what I've noticed. And their quarterback, putting a rookie quarterback against that Gator secondary and that Gator defense, sorry, it doesn't sound like a good option for me.
Okay, so I'll give you a few counterpoints, I guess. One shout out to Malik Davis, because I think he's local, right? Isn't he Armwood or something? So shout out to always to the local players, Gators, Seminoles, Hurricanes, wherever. So they do have, 4 out of their 5 linemen are new players, like starting. And now I just heard the right tackle, I think, got injured today or yesterday. They don't really have a lot of depth behind those guys. Some of those guys have played a little here and there, so that could be a problem. And then when you're talking about Miami's D-line, they're very deep, especially at defensive end. They got Jonathan Garvin. He was one of the leaders in tackles for a loss last year. They have a 5th-year player, Scott Patchon. He's really good. He has bloodlines in the Miami dynasty. His dad played there. And then they got a transfer from Virginia Tech, Hill, just to name a few, and they got 2 impressive freshmen if they get to play as well, Russo. And then defensive tackle, they got 2 good defensive tackles. And then their linebacker core is probably the best in the nation. You got 3 4-year starting players coming back, which you probably never hear of. They've been starting since they're freshmen. Their senior year, Shaq Quarterman, Michael Pickney, and Zach, I forgot his last name, McLeod. So you got that. The secondary is the one thing. They did have the number 1 pass defense last year. 3 of the 4 starters are gone. Tranjan is the returning corner. But they got a lot of depth, got a lot of playmakers. They just haven't played a lot, but they can probably cover the Gators defense. So I think both defenses are pretty good. I would give the edge overall to Miami's defense. Offensively, like you were talking about, Franks is returning. One thing I noticed about Franks is he played good the last few games against, FSU and Michigan. But throughout the season and their losses, he was very poor. So how is he going to stack against a real good defense? That's my number 1 question. I already mentioned the offensive line, if they can protect for him, they can get him running lanes. So, you're predicting a little bit of a game that might be, blowout or something. I'm thinking it's going to be a little closer. We're going to get into the Miami quarterback as well, but do you have any counterpoints for that or anything you wanted to mention?
So the big thing you mentioned was the secondary for Miami. 3 out of the 4 starters are gone. So Florida's offensive weapons that they have at receiver are huge. I mean, you have Cleveland, You have multiple different receivers. Grimes, you got multiple playmakers all throughout. You're not going to start a rookie freshman and guard most of those receivers. That will be a big thing. So if you allow Franks to sit back there and pick them apart, I'm sorry, as a freshman, they're going to have problems being able to keep up with those receivers. I really like Damian Pierce. He's a second-year player out of Brainbridge, Georgia. Actually, is where he came from. I had a cousin that went to high school, or who knew him from high school. I saw pictures and video of him in high school. The guy is very, very impressive. He's a second-year running back for Florida. He's actually the number 2 back for us, behind P. Ryan. P. Ryan's great, but watch Pierce. He's got incredible speed, and he's very versatile too. So the thing I like about Florida is they're not just all passing, they're not all just running. They have, all-around offense. Their secondary, Florida's secondary has a very good team too. Zuniga is the guy on the defensive line who's very, very good, who gets a very good pass rush for Florida too. So I think really with Miami's quarterback being that he's a rookie, I mean, we have very good defensive backs who I think that's going to be the biggest key in the first half, is you may see at least 1 to 2 interceptions because he's going to try to force something. And I could see that being a huge difference in the first half. It would be pretty close the first half, but I think those interceptions are going to be what's the difference in the first half.
Yeah, so we've talked a little bit about, Miami's defense versus Florida's offense. Let's switch gears and talk about, Miami's offense. As we mentioned, Miami has a new starting QB, Jerron Williams. He beat out Tate Martell, Nicosia Perry, who played a little last year. So all 3 guys were 4-star recruits, top 100 recruits. So these weren't like scrub players that just got off. Martell was expected to win. He came from Ohio State. He just transferred in. But Jaron, he was last year, came in. He only played in 1 game, so he's still redshirted. What he showed in practice and why they named him the starting QB is because he minimizes turnovers. He didn't have, he was consistent, and he's probably the most accurate out of the 3. The downfall is the other 2 guys were a little more mobile, especially Martell. He could run more RPO stuff. So from an athletic standpoint, he's probably not the most athletic, but pure pocket passer, he was the best 3, and he has the most upside. He's a freshman. So I think that's why they went ahead and went with Jerron Williams. So hopefully he's not going to turn over the ball. That's why they made him the starter. He doesn't take those chances. And they do have, some good running backs. You mentioned they don't have skill players. They do have actually some good skill players. They have DJ Dallas returning at running back. They have Lorenzo Lingard, a 5-star recruit. He'll be in there. And they also have Cameron Harris at receiver. They have a guy that's going to be in the NFL one day, and everyone's going to know him. He's going to be his name is Jeff Thomas. And they got some good tight ends as well. So I think if they attack the tight ends in the middle of the field, because as you mentioned, Florida has a very good secondary, that's going to be the key for their offense, to attack the tight ends. And, we're going to get into a prediction in a minute. One thing I did want to mention, though, is, Dan Mellon has done a good coaching job. Mississippi State, he came to Florida. One thing I don't like about what happened in the offseason is this whole Chris Steele, Jalen Jones fiasco. There were 2 incoming freshmen. Jones got in trouble with some girls, and then, Steele requested to, get out of that room. I guess they were roommates. What did you think about that whole thing?
So
I think he handled it poorly. That's what I'm trying to get
From
into.
what I understand, that there was a lot more to it than what they brought up. Because like you said, he was trying to move on, but at the same time, the one who moved on Steele, he's been trouble not only once he moved on from Florida, he's caused issues elsewhere too. So, I mean, there's a little bit more to than just the story that was met.
Well, Jones has already been kicked out of the school, I think, right? Hasn't he already left UF?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure.
So Jones has already gone, and Steele now has transferred to USC, which he's actually from the West Coast. So he's already enrolled into USC. So they lost out 2 of the premier, players. So I'm not saying that it's directly involved like Urban Meyer, but you saw Urban Meyer let stuff get away. Does Dan Mullen have some of those same tendencies where he runs a little loose ship? Because, some of these players have been getting in trouble. But, just to sort of wrap it up, I guess, get back on topic, we're going to go ahead and make some predictions. I know Tim has been boasting about, Florida's pulling away in the second half. I think it's going to be close, but I think Miami, if Florida wins, they're the favorite. Everyone's expecting that. But if Miami wins, it's going to be a big for a first-year coach. for a brand new starting QB. It's in Orlando, so it's sort of neutral. There'll probably be more Gator fans. But you know what? I got to pick Miami. I'm going with Miami by 3. Turnover chain. It's all about the U, baby. It's all about the U. Go ahead, Tim.
I would have never guessed you would have went Miami. Never. So, okay, what's your score though? I heard 3. What do you? How many points
I'm
do you think
thinking
Miami
it's
can
going
put
to be
up?
a low-scoring game. Miami's not going to score a lot. I think Miami's defense is good enough that Florida won't score a lot. So I'll go 24-21 Miami.
Interesting. So, to see Miami score 24 on Florida's defense, to me that's okay. That's wonderful. I say, I'm sorry, I don't see Miami scoring more than 13. They'll score a touchdown, maybe a couple field goals. I can easily see it 31-13 final Florida. Like I said, I think it's going to be close first half. It's going to be a close game, but I think the second half, when ultimately that August heat burns down that defensive line, because everybody the first week, nobody's in pure tip-top shape. And I think that second half, what's going to happen is that defensive line is going to start to weaken because it's too hot. Ultimately, that running game for Florida is going to take off. They're going to be able to run over the top, and next thing you know, they'll be able to pass the ball. Both of them go hand in hand together. So I think Florida will be able to take over in that second half and actually spread out the score.
All right, so we got your predictions. Tune in August 24th on Orlando, Miami, and Florida.
Can't wait.
Let's go.